Good morning, kids. So today we're going to continue learning multiplication, and today we're going to focus on a few different skills. First, we are going to learn the vocabulary standard algorithm and distributive property. These are the two vocabulary terms that we're really going to be working with today. We are also working with the term array, which we learned last week. Okay. So if we remember, when we take a multiplication problem and we break it into groups and we put the amount we need in each group. So for instance, here we have 23 times 3. So we could have 23 groups of 3. If we read them across, it's 23 groups of 3. Or we can do 3 groups with 23 in them. And that would be if you look at them going down. That is called our array. Now, when we look at the problem written as 23 times 3, and we're just going to go through and solve it this way, this is called the standard algorithm. And the standard algorithm is just the regular way you write a math problem. 1 plus 2, 15 divided by 5. Now, in multiplication, one of our biggest vocabulary terms is going to be distributive property. And to know what this means, we have to remember that the word distribute means to hand out. So, like, if I'm passing out papers at school, I'm actually distributing papers to each of the students. If I'm on a newspaper route and I am delivering newspapers to people, that's actually distributing things. So, the distributive property means each number or each digit has to be multiplied together. And so we're going to start with 2 digit by 1 digit to see how this distributive property works. So when we have 15 times 2 here, this is the exact same thing. I'm going to draw my little arrow. This is the same thing as saying, if we break this down into standard or into expanded form, we would get 10, right, plus 5 for 15, right? And then we have 2. All right, and the way that we would put that is we can put it down here. And I'm just going to show you this way to make it a little bit more clear. Okay, so now we have 10 plus 5 times 2, because 15 in expanded form we know is 10 plus 5. So what this means is I'm going to add together 10 times 2, and see, I've got my addition sign, so I would put it here, and we would add 5 times 2. Okay, now that seems a little complicated, but what I'm really trying to show you is that the 2 must be divided by, must be multiplied to all numbers. So you would multiply the 2 to the 5, and you multiply the 2 to the 1 in the tens place. And that's what this is saying. If we broke it up, that's the 2 times 5, and 2 times 1 in the tens place. But we're going to use the standard algorithm. This just explains how it works, but we're going to just solve it regular. So I'm going to come back down here, and I'm going to write out my problem. It's 15 times 2, and now I'm going to use that distributive property to multiply. So first, I always, just like with addition and subtraction, I'm always going to start in the ones position right here. So I have 5 times 2, and I know that anything times 2, it's like you're adding it to itself. So 5 times 2 is like 5 plus 5, and 5 times 2 is 10. Now, just like in addition, only one digit can fit in each position. Okay, so 5 times 2 is 10, just like with addition, we're going to raise this up, but we're going to put plus 1. Okay, so 2 times 1, well, we know anything multiplied by 1 is itself. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus the 1 we carried is 3. So 15 times 2 is 30. And there's my array. And if I counted it by 2s, I would get 30. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 20. 830. All right, now we're going to do 23 times 3. And we're going to remember that the distributive property is the same as saying 3 times 3, 3 times 20. But we're not going to break it down like this. So you've seen that I've drawn my array, okay? I either did 23 rows of 3 or I did 3 columns of 23. It's the same kind of grouping. So here I go. Starting in the ones position, 3 times 3. Well, if I just look at this first block, I have 3 times 3. And so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So 3 times 3, that's 9. And I don't have anything to carry. So now I go 3 times 2, okay? And 3 times 2 is 6. Good job. So 23 times 3 is 69. And if we counted all of these up, we would get to the answer of 69. So let's try this again, okay? This time, let's do 24, okay? And notice I'm giving my numbers room. In multiplication, that's important because as we increase our digits, you're going to see that it impacts how we add things together. So let's do 24 times 5. I think that's a good one to practice. Okay, so this time we can use an array to check our work or to help us out. But this time I want to simply work it through with the standard algorithm. Now, this is easier if you have your multiplication chart. You can look at your multiplication chart to help yourself out. Or if you've already learned your multiplication facts, then you can just do this right away. So 4 times 5 is 20. And so I'm going to put down my 0. And remember, I'm going to add. I'm going to carry that 2. Okay. And then 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 2 is 12. So we get 120, right? And so another way I can look at this is 24 plus 24 plus 24 plus 24 plus 24. Okay, and that would equal 120. Remember, multiplication is just repeated addition. This takes a long time to do, and you could make a lot of math errors if you did it this way, which is why we want to learn this standard algorithm for multiplication. But if you ever get stuck, know that you can always go back and use this other method because it still works. It's just not the efficient way of solving this problem. So step 1, I'm going to write down your steps so that you can make sure you've got them in. So when we come to 24 times 5, we are going to multiply, and I'm going to just do it in steps right here. Okay. So first we multiply 5 and the 4, and we get 20. Okay. Our second step with 24 times 5. Okay. We've already got that done. Now my second step is I'm going to multiply the 5 times the 2 and add the 2, and that's where I get 120. Okay, so these are the steps. So now I'm going to give you one, and on your own paper, I want you to try it. Okay, and so you're going to pause the video, and you're going to work it out, and you're going to see if your answer is the same thing that I got. So let's do 16, and let's multiply 16 times 3. Okay. So at this point, you're going to solve 16 times 3 on your own paper. Pause the video, and once you've got it solved, come back. Okay, so now that you've worked this out, I'm going to work it out, and I want you to follow along and see if you were able to get in all the steps and reach the correct product. Now, the product is the answer to that multiplication problem. So I'm going to do 6 times 3. And I know 6 times 3 is 18. And I'm going to carry my 1. And 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So 48. Okay, let's try another one. Let's do 22 times 4. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and solve that problem, and then I'll meet you back here and we can double check together. Okay, so 4 times 2 is 8, and then 4 times 2 is 8. So our solution is 88. Good job. Let's try another one. Let's do 12. Lots of 2's today. What that's about. 12 times 5. Okay. Pause the video and go ahead and solve this. All right, now that you're back, 5 times 2 is 10. And I'm going to carry that 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. So the answer is 60. And if I count by 5s, or I do my skip counting, or count by multiples, however you want to talk about it, I can skip count 5 12 times and get to 60. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. So 12 5s does give me 60. Let's try one more. Let's do 31 times 7. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and work that out. All right, so 7 times 1, we know anything times 1 is itself. So 7 times 1 is 7. Okay, and 7 times 3. Well, I know 7 plus 7, that's 7 times 2, is 14. So all I have to do is put another 7 to that. And I know 7 times 3 is 21. And because there are no other numbers to multiply to, I can just write down the whole 21. And I get 217. Now this is going to work no matter how many digits I put in the top. You just multiply the bottom digit by each of the digits in the top number. So I want to show you that this does work. And so now we're going to take on one that instead of double digits is a triple digit. So let's do 134. And we're going to multiply this by 2 because that'll make it easier to check. Now, when we get into 134, arrays are probably not going to be our best strategy because you'd have to count up to 134 2 times. That's why knowing your individual math facts really will help you. So go ahead, pause the video, and see if you can solve this one on your own, and then come back and let's check. All right, so a 3-digit by 1 digit. Here we go, using the distributive property. First we go 2 times 4, and 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, second one is 2 times 3, and 2 times 3 is 6. And now we go to our last one, 2 times 1, and 2 times 1 is 2. So we have 268. All right, so look over our steps again. Make sure you understand the distributive property. Remember, that means to hand something out. We're also looking at the word standard algorithm. This is standard algorithm. All it means is you write it like a regular math problem. Okay? Distributive property, we're distributing. Standard algorithm is the regular way to write a math problem.